Hey everyone, it's your favorite funny Minecrafter here, SpeedyCube64, and in this video, I might be getting a bit more personal. You see, throughout my years as a YouTuber and as a speedrunner, I've accomplished quite a bit. I've gone viral beyond comprehension, I've swept the whole Super Hostile series, I've dominated the leaderboards of several games, and I've even become the first person to build a redstone computer in survival. But despite all that, there's just one thing I've been missing. Just one thing I so eagerly crave, but just can't seem to get my hands on. The new Bot-Buy Super Mega Ultimate Chicken Sandwich Deluxe. I mean, it's been out for a while now, and it's gotta be the best thing ever. It's got pickles, it's got onions, it's got a nice spicy mayo, it's got everything. And time's running out. So in this video, I'm asking for your help. Wait, so why don't you just buy the sandwich? You don't understand. Due to recent inflation, the price of the Ultimate Chicken Sandwich has skyrocketed to a whole $26.99 plus tax. Well, if you need the money, there's a Minecraft map bounty that's still up for grabs. Wait, really? Yeah, look here. Huh, I can totally do this. Hey again. After much deliberating, I decided to do a post commentary on this run. This is a speedrun of a custom map called Legendary. Right off the bat, I saved 2 seconds over the previous world record with some tricky parkour. I call that bridgeless because otherwise I would have had to lower a bridge of falling sand to get across that lava pit. This area is called the Humble Start. I mostly just need to get out of it as fast as possible, with the exit being above me. I do have to get some extra wood for the next area, but I make sure to only get the exact amount that I need. Oh, and by the way, if you want to see an uncommentated version of this run, it'll be in the description, but I got this new mic and I'll be damned if I don't use it. Here, I craft a boat and a pickaxe and turn my remaining wood planks into slabs just to stretch them out. I then punch this boat while sprinting, which makes the game drain my hunger bar as if I'm just walking. This is crucial to making my limited food supply last for the first few minutes. Now in intersection 1, I do a boat drop down to a conveniently placed chest at the bottom. If you didn't know, the intersections are just the areas connecting all the various dungeons together. Here's my first speed bridge, and this is with the slabs, so it's extra tricky. I went down here for the specific supply chest that has a few stacks of blocks and some other important items for later. And then I start one stacking. This combines speed bridging and pillaring to save all the time it would take to move horizontally across the intersection. In this case, I'm one stacking a whole 73 blocks to save 10 seconds. One stacking efficiently involves a very precise rhythm-based sequence where I only have a couple of ticks to place each block. This took a lot of practice to get down, but it was worth it. The previous world record was 34:15. Getting sub 30 and beyond was a combination of better execution, a new route, and a bunch of small but tricky optimizations like this one. Learning to one stack has also made me a better Bed Wars player, so that's good. Here I craft some more boats for later in the run, but also to do the hunger trick again. The previous world record was set before this trick was discovered, and it spent upwards of 15 seconds getting extra food. I'm now in the first dungeon, the floating shards. This is only difficult due to the need to speed bridge the entire thing. In total, I'll need to do 45 blocks of one stacking, 25 blocks of diagonal bridging, and 20 blocks of regular bridging. Legendary is an entry in the Super Hostile series by Vex, which itself is part of a custom map genre called Complete the Monument. In this type of map, you have to conquer various dungeons by looting specific objectives in them, like this one. In this map, I have to collect 16 differently colored wool blocks and 3 different mineral blocks, and the map is considered beaten when all those objectives are placed on the victory monument. You can see which objectives I have with the objective counter at the top of the screen. This run was done in Minecraft version 1.7.10, but the map was actually made for much older versions of the game. In fact, it's so old that its latest update was intended for Minecraft version 1.2.5. You might have seen speedruns of other custom maps that take advantage of teleportation systems to skip backtracking, but this map doesn't have a teleportation system, or any command blocks for that matter. I instead have to use more creative ways to skip backtracking. One such method is by going on the roof of the map so that I can take a straight line to the next dungeon. There is some lava in my way, but it's only 1 block deep, so I could just jump across it like this. I call this lava running, and the timing on this is also tricky, like it is for one stacking. I make sure to face a specific angle to go directly to the next area, which you can see in the map display on the bottom right. After this stretch, I'll be doing a boat drop to go down to the next dungeon, Castle Acedia. According to the lore, this place was built by someone who never went outside, and so he died in regret. Remember to touch grass, everyone. You can see the gold pick saving time here, but aside from that, the way I take on this dungeon is pretty self-explanatory. In fact, I'm already done. I just need to get back out and onto the roof to get to the next area. Unfortunately, this does mean a bit more one-stacking and lava running. I should also make it clear that for the latter, I'm using an accessibility tool called Windows Mouse Keys, which allows me to rebind various mouse functions to keys on the numpad. This lets me move my aim upwards an exact amount to get a consistent pitch or vertical angle for lava running. This is a bit goofy, but it is allowed in CTM runs, and besides, I wouldn't need to use it if Minecraft 1.7 just had the pitch in the F3 screen. But anyway, I finally made it to this water level called East Commons where I can get a break from all the speed bridging and lava running. This is the last dungeon of Intersection 1. As I said earlier, the dungeons and other areas of the map are connected to each other by intersections. There are 5 intersections in this map. The first 4 are in the overworld and the last one is in the nether. These intersections are supposed to increase in difficulty for casual play, but that doesn't quite hold true for a speedrun. The first 2 intersections of the map are pretty reset heavy in this run, not because of the innate difficulty of the dungeons, but because of the endurance-based speed bridging and lava running tricks. This dungeon is the exception because all I have to do is drive the boat over to this island and dig down to get the wool. The other 3 intersections do have their own issues with setup-based tricks, mob RNG, and other assorted bullshit, but we'll get to that later. After getting the wool, it's just going to be a bunch of basic movement to get over to intersection 2. There's no use going on the roof because the entirety of intersection 2 is underground. Instead, I'll just be running to the other side of this island and spending a minute traveling by boat and minecart. In the meantime, I might as well mention whom I'm up against. The first run of this map was done by QB in 2014 and took a whole hour and 7 minutes. This was then followed by Absolute Psycho's 49-minute run a year later. And that's it. In the category I'm playing, I'm the only one to have finished a run in the past 9 years. However, there are 3 different categories for the map, depending on what Minecraft version you're playing it in. The first is pre-1.9, which includes 1.7.10, the version I'm playing on. The second is for 1.9 and up and is most optimal on 1.16.1. And the third is for Minecraft Beta 1.7.3. The record for the 1.16 category is 25:32 by Japunk, and the record for the beta category is a secret time by JR5000. The route for this run was actually developed over a year ago, and it's an interesting mix of strategies used in the beta and 1.16 speedruns. This is Pain Water. It's a maze of water surrounded by lava. There are 2 points of interest here, the loot room and the wool chest. The strategy for this area has been almost unchanged since 2015. It's just a matter of bridging over the lava and dropping down from above. This is what my gravel and ladders are used for. One optimization over the previous world record was making a pillar there so that I could place more gravel at once and get it all down quicker. The chest to my right has a TNT trap below it, so I make sure to collect the TNT for later without accidentally triggering it. But the 40 bread I get from this area is perhaps the most important. This is a pretty big detour, but the rest of the run probably wouldn't be possible without it. Now it's time for round 2, which involves bridging to the wool chest. I've fallen into lava here more times than I probably should have. I find one stacking and flat speed bridging to both be tricky in different ways. Unlike one stacking, which has a fixed maximum speed, with flat bridging I have to find a good balance between speed and consistency. The wool chest is located in a weirdly tall shaft, so I don't need to drop any gravel here. I can just use the water to break my fall and get the wool. Although the strategy for real-time runs hasn't changed since 2015, there is a task from 2016 which uses a crazy sequence of pearls to get everything. Obviously, this isn't happening in a real run. In fact, I deliberately chose not to kill Enderman in this run so as to not make the category dependent on some stupid Ender Pearl luck. But now I only have one more dungeon in Intersection 2. Ironically, the hardest part of this dungeon is the path leading up to it. Here I have to narrowly dodge some zombies, and then the dark hallway is a complete gamble when it comes to mob spawns. The creeper spawners aren't usually a problem, but if other mobs slow me down, I can be in big trouble. Here my luck is about average, with a few creepers that try their best to kill me but don't quite get the job done. Unlike the previous world record, I'm playing this run on easy mode. Despite that, it still took me a whole 2,500 attempts. Only about 150 of those attempts made it this far, and a few of those ended here because this one stack got interrupted by a skeleton. Luckily, that doesn't happen in this run. You can use boats to clip upwards through floors that are 1 block thick, so here I do just that. Conveniently, this area has a 2x3 frame of obsidian that I can light to enter the nether. I also held on to my axe so that I can overlap getting the wool with going through the portal. Now I've just sequence broken into the last intersection of the map, which lets me get the hardest dungeons over with and gives me access to the best gear available. I'll still have to conquer intersections 3 and 4 later, but the process will be a lot quicker. See that island underneath me? I'm about to do a pearl hang towards it. After throwing the pearl, I run in the opposite direction and get just far away enough to freeze it in unloaded chunks so that I can activate it later and remotely teleport there. Here's another cool trick. If you're eating food and you drop a piece while aiming at a chest, you can skip the rest of the eating animation. The spawners in this upcoming dungeon can either spawn normal skeletons or wither skeletons, with the normal skeletons being harder to deal with. I get a normal skeleton at the very start, so it could be over. But then he misses. We're so back. Once I reach the wool box, I place some blocks around me so that I can safely do the eat skip as I grab the wool. The previous world record went above this dungeon and clipped down onto the wool box from above. This method of raw dogging it is a lot riskier, but it's consistent enough and it saves at least 10 seconds, so it's worth it. I do have to take a short backtrack here, but the next dungeon is literally right around the corner. In the meantime, I make sure to do head hitters when I can just to get there a little bit faster. Unlike the last dungeon, this one is surprisingly easy, with my only deaths being on this short speed bridge to get here. This area is shaped like a taco, depicting the map maker's cravings at the time of making it. All I have to do is run across the beef and lettuce to reach the wool without falling into the cheese. The spawners are the pepper and spices. But after I get the wool, instead of going back to intersection 5, I instead turn right to go to the outside of the taco. Why am I doing this? You can't see it yet, but there's a giant wall in front of me. I'm going to be going on the roof again to sequence break to the very last wool. Unfortunately, this one is going to take a while. I'll try my best to keep you entertained the whole time. First off, I might as well mention how I got the map display in the bottom right corner. I actually made a simple Minecraft mod to write a log of player data to a file, including coordinates, angle, and dimension. I then made a Python script to turn that data into a video that I could edit in post. Next, despite the popularity of the Super Hostile series, this map doesn't have many active runners, and this makes sense considering that this is what I believe to be the hardest CTM speedrun, at least the hardest one I've ever done. It took a total of 207 hours to achieve this time, specifically 100 hours of practice and 107 hours of attempts. For comparison, it took 195 hours to build the redstone computer, and it took 146 hours to get top 5 in BFBB 100%. I interrupt this monologue to explain 2 more tricks I'm about to do on this upcoming straightaway. The first is a different version of eat skip which doesn't require a chest. Instead, you have to let go of right click exactly 3 ticks after dropping the food. I then rebind my controls to do a trick called inventory walk, which is done by pressing E, escape, and all the relevant movement keys at the same time. I also somehow accidentally clicked out of my game window there. Whoops. But the cool thing about inventory walking is that I can put every item I have in a specific spot, making the menuing way more consistent. Back to the subject of the grind. I mentioned earlier that the previous world record was 34:15 from all the way back in the dark age of 2020. While this isn't exactly true, I didn't immediately go from 34:15 to my goal time. It actually took multiple years of development. The $30 bounty on sub 30 was placed in late 2022, so I created a new route and made a segmented run of 30:07. Obviously, this doesn't cut it, so with the help of some other runners, I made even more routing changes and lowered the theoretical time to a segmented 27:27. Then I did the entire redstone computer project. When I came back in November, I actually got sub 30 relatively quickly, and even sub 29 after that. But I wanted to get a run that was actually good. Even after I somehow beat my segmented time with a 27:11, I still saw room for improvement. But in typical speedy fashion, I ended up hitting a wall yet again at a time ending in 0:0. Getting over this one was especially tricky. Not only did this require many more hours of gameplay, but I also had to improve my mindset while doing runs. I even had to turn view bobbing off just to get marginally better at speed bridging. I finally ended up getting this run on December 28th, 2024, and although it isn't perfect, I'm still quite satisfied with it. Alright, I finally made it to Face of Evil, the last and hardest dungeon. I enter this one from the backside so I can immediately get the black wool and these super needed golden apples and diamond armor. There's another wool deep in the heart of this dungeon, so I have to go down and get that. You can imagine how long it would take to pillar up from the bottom of this shaft, and then reason that it makes sense for me to have gotten here using the roof instead. This dungeon is especially tricky in 1.7 runs because I have to stop to mine spawners for experience. Besides the bounty, this is the main reason I play on 1.7. Leveling up takes longer in 1.8. Depending on how many pigmen spawn here, there's a chance I accidentally hit one, which of course means game over. It's more common than you think. There will be a fail montage after this run, and there will be no shortage of clips from Face of Evil. The chest containing the red wool floats directly above the void with dispensers firing arrows across it. There are a few possible strategies to get it, but it turns out that the best one is just a bridge towards it from the side. The arrows go right over my head. However, even though I've gotten both wool, I still have to backtrack out of this dungeon. Not just because the alternative is climbing up 128 blocks, but also because the front of this dungeon connects to the only diamonds in the map. I also have to mine a few more spawners so that I can eventually get to level 30. I say eventually because I actually only get 27 levels in this dungeon, relying on the diamonds to get the rest of the XP later. You can see the inventory walk I did earlier saving time here as I have all the items I need right now lined up in a row. Underneath this excessively long bridge are a bunch of islands with those diamonds I was talking about. I'm specifically waiting to reach the island with the most diamonds. Since I don't have an iron pickaxe, or any pickaxe for that matter, I'll instead be using the TNT I got by looting the trap in Pain Water earlier. I need 14 diamonds in total, but I only need to get 3 from the explosions to make a pick. In 1.7, each block broken by TNT only has a small chance of dropping. This means I can get any number of diamonds from the explosions. In this case, I kinda get more diamonds than I know what to do with. Keep in mind that besides getting diamonds, I need to make sure the XP brings me past 30 levels. My execution on this island was definitely not great, but the fact that the 3 or so second time loss here is the biggest one so far means that the run is still pretty good. This is luckily the last 1 stack in the run. One convenient thing about this bridge is that it's made of obsidian, which allows me to immediately begin making an enchantment setup. Unfortunately, I do have to slowly mine obsidian for 40 seconds here, but this gives me the chance to actually explain where I'm going with this. You might have seen Minecraft speedrunners take advantage of nether travel to get to the stronghold quicker, you know, because 1 block in the nether is equal to 8 blocks in the overworld. In this case, I'm going to be using a portal route, or a carefully planned sequence of nether portals that takes me directly to each of the dungeons in intersections 3 and 4. There is a bunch of overhead with mining all the obsidian by hand, but it's still worth it. I do, however, need to get efficiency 4 on this diamond pickaxe, which is a 69% chance. Out of the 3 different categories, this is the only one that actually mines obsidian to create nether portals. You might think that this is a stain on the category, and yeah, I can't really disagree with you on that, but I argue that this run has its ups and downs, just like life as we know it. At least with efficiency 4, it takes 3 seconds to mine each obsidian block instead of 10. Throughout the rest of the run, I'm going to mine a total of 50 obsidian, and since each nether portal uses 10 obsidian, I'll of course be using it to fast travel to 6 different dungeons. That's because there's a trick that lets me travel to 2 different areas using the same portal. And you know what? Since this next minute is just mining obsidian and more travel time, I might as well explain this trick to you now. So, the recipe for making 2 portals is usually 20 obsidian, but this can be swapped out for 10 obsidian and an ender pearl. Imagine I have 2 wools to collect in the overworld, one at x equals 0 and one at x equals 160. First, I build a portal at x equals 0 in the nether. I have to stand in the portal for 4 seconds before it takes me through. While this happens, I throw a pearl with such precise timing that it lands at x equals 20 exactly when those 4 seconds are up. The game still decides to take me to the overworld, but it uses the coordinates I'm currently standing at. In this case, it takes me to the overworld at x equals 160. When I go back into the nether, the game looks for the closest available portal and spawns me in the Nether at x equals 0. I can then go back through that portal and get sent to the overworld at x equals 0. And that's how I can access 2 different areas from one portal using an ender pearl. This trick is called teleportal, a portmanteau of teleport and portal, and its implementation saves around 12 seconds in this run. But that's all for later. I haven't even begun the portal route yet. I still have one more wool to get in the Nether. The last dungeon of intersection 5 is right above me, and conveniently, I can clip inside of the wool room with another boat. This probably wouldn't be possible without the golden apple and diamond armor, not just because I have to tank the lava damage, but also because of an upcoming ender pearl. Remember the pearl I unloaded 10 minutes ago? After getting the wool, I raise my render distance to load it back in. This not only lets me escape the dungeon, but also puts me in a perfect spot to begin the portal route. In the bottom right, you can now see where I am in the Nether alongside where my position corresponds to in the overworld. I mined some gold for the gold block while I get to where my first portal needs to be. What's coming up is not the teleportal, but it is another portal related trick that saves some backtracking. This takes advantage of the fact that the intended portal, or the portal I spawned at when I first entered the Nether, is still here. TNT conveniently has a delay that's exactly the same length as the Nether portal's delay, so I step in the portal and light the TNT on the same tick, which lets me break the portal as I go through it. I get the wool, and when I go back, the game looks for the closest available portal in the Nether, which is the intended portal. This trick is a massive time save as it completely eliminates the need to bridge between the different islands. So that was the first of the 5 portals I'm going to make. The next portal will be on the island to the north, and the last 3 portals will be on the island to the east. This means that when I build my next portal, I'll be using the portal breaking trick to get back up here again. Unfortunately, I do have to mine a bit more obsidian to actually make the portal in the first place. The method I used earlier with the TNT was actually just one of the many different ways to break a portal. It can also be done with buckets, beds, or even a pickaxe. Some extra conveniences of having efficiency 4 are that I can quickly dig out a frame to build the portal, and then I can use a setup to mine one of the blocks in the portal right as I go through. You might notice that I'm kinda far away from the wool, and that's because I need to get this ender pearl right here. You know, because you need a pearl to do that teleportal trick. This area also contains the only iron in the map, so I would have had to go out of the way to get that anyway. I will be doing the trick at the next portal I build in the Nether, but unfortunately, it'll be a while before I get there. Not only do I have to get to where the wool actually is, but I'm also going to mine the rest of my obsidian in this area and smelt my iron and gold, which will take upwards of 90 seconds, so you know what that means, it's shoutout time. First of all, I'd like to shout out Contronaut and JR5000, the main route developers for the 1.16 and beta categories respectively. Contronaut especially provided a ton of route and strategy improvements even when I didn't ask for them. If it weren't for his nitpicks, the run would be quite a few seconds slower, and if it weren't for his routing improvements, it wouldn't even be sub 30. JR5000 helped more on the technical side. He was able to explain to me how pearl hangs work in this version, specifically the kind of pearl hang done in this run which only uses 1 pearl. He figured it out by literally decompiling and reading the game's code. Aside from the run, I got a ton of help from him when it came to making the mod that gets data for the map display in the bottom right. I should also mention that my inspiration to make such a display in the first place came from Red Penguin's speedrun of a different map. One rather unorthodox source of help for this run was Timothy Galwey's book, The Inner Game of Tennis. As I said, this was one of the most difficult speedruns I've ever done, and it was quite frustrating at times. I often choked when I was on good pace and tilted when I wasn't. Although it wasn't perfect, the inner game did help me discover a few techniques to essentially play in a more relaxed and confident state. It even helped in sections like this where I'm not doing anything even remotely intense. And as per usual, credit goes to Testable for some editing inspiration, particularly for the skit at the beginning, which I was actually able to do in real life this time because I finally hit 30,000 subscribers. Oh yeah, about that. Thank you for all your appreciation and support regarding my last video. If you're one of my newer subscribers, there's a chance you might have come here from RecRap too, so I have him to thank as well. You know, cause I have to stay humble and shout out a small creator every now and then. And if you're a longtime viewer, I appreciate your continued support throughout the years and your patience with these last few uploads. I'm aware that my output has been reduced by quite a bit, but I hope the quality is worth it. Lastly, I have to thank my TAs, Pierce and Walter, for letting my group submit a presentation past the due date. Alright, the long and boring stretch of mining obsidian is finally coming to a close. I can now re-enter the Nether with this obsidian frame I dug out, and so the portal route resumes. Because I did the portal breaking trick eons ago, I again spawn at the intended portal to skip bridging and backtracking. I then get rid of the intended portal so that that doesn't happen again. The next 3 portals I make are going to be on this island down here, and the first one will be the site of the teleportal. I boat down to the coordinates corresponding to the first dungeon, build a bridge there for the pearl to land, and then head over to build a portal for the second dungeon. Don't worry about that. You know, although I've been hyping up this teleportal trick for a while, and it has cost me quite a few runs, at the end of the day there really isn't that much to it. All I really have to do is get the right setup and then press 2 keys on the same tick. Here goes. And I'm in. At this point in the run, I kinda had no idea what to think. First off, I didn't even know it was possible to survive falling in lava there. Not only that, but I wasn't sure if I would have enough health for the rest of the run. I also played this run without a timer on screen, so for all I knew, I was just finishing another ordinary run. In a way, falling in lava was sort of like the perfect accident because it got rid of all my concerns about how good or bad the run was, and as a result, I played these last few dungeons extremely well. Efficiency 4 comes in handy once again as I can tunnel directly to the next portal spot. So far, all the dungeons I've built portals to were free of mob interference, but this next one will be different. The wool room of the West Commons Pyramid is filled with prime spawners, and I have to break a block to access the chest. This makes it the only part of the portal route to have any notable RNG, and I block the portal off just in case. I get the glowstone down, rush over to the chest, and get the wool relatively quickly. I get knocked down, but I get up again, and somehow these mobs are just far away enough that I can block them from going through the portal, so I don't have to kill them on the other side. To make a long story short, that's good RNG. I only have one more portal to go, and of course, it requires a 40 block speed bridge, or 43 if you count building the portal itself. This one is last because not only is it the most out of the way, but it's also closest to the victory monument. My chosen method of building the portal isn't super easy, which can be a problem if I'm nervous, but as I said, that's not an issue in this run. I'm locked in. I put some extra blocks in my hotbar a minute ago so that I have enough to pillar up to the wall. A ghast can occasionally spawn here and fire at me, but you already know that doesn't happen here. Efficiency 4 does its thing yet again as I dig into the wall and eyeball the right depth to reach the wall. On the way out, I make sure to dig down a few blocks to not take too much damage on this drop, but as luck would have it, there are literally no mobs in front of me. Both double stacks go well. I have to get the first few wool in my hotbar, and there's a straightaway right here. You know what that means. Take 1, take 2. A good chunk of the wool organization is already done, so that makes things easy. In fact, I'm done before I even reach the stairs. I also got all the pink wool from the chest, so I have some spare blocks for faster movement, including these head hitters right here. I hope you enjoyed, because the victory monument is right in front of me, and with one more double stack, I'm basically done. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay speedy. Peace. Alright, I got it. Now all I have to do is contact... Oh, that's me.